Hi there, this is Kathy Doyle, Educational Services in the Assessment Office. Today we want to familiarize you with the guidelines for supports and accommodation that can be provided for students in the new online testing environment. Then, we want to share the planning and reporting tools that our district has prepared to assure that the needs of students are verified, documented, in place, and ready to go for each student as he or she logs into the Smarter Balanced field test this spring. The documents shown in this video can all be found by accessing the Educational Services Test Coordinators Corner under the selection CASP. This is the acronym for California's newly renamed assessment system, California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress. The SBAC Usability, Accessibility, and Accommodations Guidelines were adopted last fall and replaced the matrix of test variations and accommodations that was in place during STAR testing. With online testing comes new software-embedded supports, on-screen glossary translation for example, as well as some non-embedded supports that carry over from the world of paper and pencil testing. The guidelines include a description of each support, along with the recommendation for when the support might be needed. It will be critically important that you become familiar with this document. Knowing that current IEPs and 504 plans were written to support paper pencil testing, a crosswalk document was developed by our assessment office to ease the transition to the SBAC. Let's take a look at how to read this crosswalk. The type of support, example visual and tactile aids, is identified in the left-hand vertical column. Then the universal tools, designated supports, and accommodations from the new guidelines are listed along with the page reference from the guidelines document where each tool is detailed. On the corresponding right-hand side are listed the test variation or accommodation from the matrix of old, but that are most likely listed within a student's current plan, 504, or IEP. Again, this crosswalk was designed to assist your understanding of the new accessibility guidelines and how the new tools support previous IEP team decisions. As classroom teachers, EL instructional leaders, and IEP teams become familiar with student needs that can be supported by these guidelines, it will be important that the teacher make record of the decision onto the classroom planning sheet. This will be the first step to connect the support or accommodation to a student. Using the planning sheet, be sure that you have entered the required student information correctly, as your site may designate someone other than classroom teachers to record these into the newly built eSchool screens. Please remember that a designated support can be provided to any student, translation options to any English learner, but an accommodation requires that a student be on a 504 plan or IEP. Now we are ready to preview for you the eSchool screens that will capture the decisions for SBAC, embedded, and non-embedded supports for each eligible or applicable student. The selections made on these screens will, in the weeks prior to testing, be extracted and entered into SBAC's Student Information System known as TIDE. Gone are those days when variations or accommodations are bubbled after testing on the student answer document. The online world will do this for us, providing the decisions are made known and flagged on these eSchool screens well in advance of the testing start date. Once at your eSchool homepage, search for the student for whom you will enter a designated support or accommodation. Open the demographic folder and scroll to the two screens, SBAC Designated Supports and SBAC Accommodations. With your school classroom planning sheet in hand for easy reference, open the appropriate screen for your selection or selections. You must save your work, or you will be prompted to save your work before leaving the screen. If a student on an IEP or 504 plan will have both designated supports and accommodation, you will visit each screen separately to make and save the selections. On the accommodations page, be sure to enter whether the student is on an IEP or 504. Once flagged into these screens in eSchool, the information will be preserved for transfer to the SBAC TIDE system and for summary reporting for the test examiner in preparation for the day of testing. More on that to come at a later date. So for now, congratulations! You are set to go with using the SBAC Usability, Accessibility, and Accommodations Guidelines, the Crosswalk document to understand how these new tools relate to those used in the world of paper pencil testing, the school and classroom planning sheet to record any embedded or non-embedded tool that has been determined for use by an individual student, and the new eSchool screens to preserve the designations and to be ready for online testing to begin. Thank you for your time, and please do not hesitate to contact the assessment office for any questions.